And of course, also that will form the basis of our discussion here with our panelists today. And allow me to introduce our panelists today. We have with us Dr. Boni Khalwale, who is the deputy leader of the Ford Kenya Party. Also, we do have with us Senator Aaron Cheruiyot, who is the senator of Kericho. We have also Kimani Matangi, who is a senator from Kiambu. We're eagerly waiting for Jacob Midio to join us as well. And also, I'm getting a message from Mutula Lonzo Jr. He's feeling poorly this morning, and he's saying I'm off the weather. Of course, he's having a flu there. Medicine is making me drowsy. I can't hack the show, so he can't really come also this morning. But the conversation continues apace. Remember, we started this IEBC conversation last week, and many of them also foretold about the crumbling of IEBC today. So let's just pick up with Dr. Boni Khalwale to just start us off. This was a conversation we started last week, and of course, many of you also predicted the demise, I should say, yeah, with scare quotes, of IEBC.
Well, I think it is a good thing that what we had said all along, just after the 8th of August general election, that these people should go before we go for the repeat presidential election, has finally come to pass. However, I would like to emphasize that this was not an act of integrity on the part of the commissioners who have resigned. The truth is that none of them resigned. Either they were asked to resign by the powers that be, or they were simply sacked. So they chose to sanitize it a little bit by saying what they said.
So is that purely speculative, or you have very concrete information regarding that?
I have chosen to lead a very straightforward political life, and therefore I never say things that I cannot back up. Something that stands out for me is the office of the Director of Public Prosecutions. If they are really honest, then this is a big opportunity for a charge sheet to be prepared so that these commissioners can be arraigned before a court of law for the following reasons. The first one, they should take responsibility for having announced President Uhuru Kenyatta as winner on the election of 2017, 8th of August. He did not win. Mm-hmm. The second crime they committed was presiding over a flawed election that had constitutional and legal irregularities. They should be charged. They should be charged for breaking the Public Procurement and Disposal Act. And then finally, they should be charged for failure to disclose information on circumstances surrounding the death of Chris Msando. These are criminals. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
These are criminals. All right, let's say from Aaron Cheruiyot.
Well, thank you, Debarl, and good morning to our viewers. It's very difficult.
Back. You know, you're abroad.
Thank you.
Welcome back.
Good to be back. It's very difficult to pick you from where Boni Khalwale has left it. I agree with part of his statements, but the latter, the political statements that he make, I do not agree with them. But three quick things that I want to say on this IEBC.
What don't you agree with?
Yes. I'll come to it later. Let me first make my point, then I'll say the point of departure with Senator Boni Khalwale. You know, what I agree with him is that this has come a bit too late in the day, but then again, it is a perfect opportunity for us as a country, because this is one area that we continue to grapple with and have great contestation about whether IEBC, as presently constituted, is a house of integrity, whether they can carry out any national duty, and that kind of debate. Now that we are here in this particular stage, it is perhaps a good act of nature that we can bid goodbye to the three commissioners that have been left, and told it was good transacting with you. you have outlived your usefulness for the country. It is now time that we sit down and get to agree on how to reform some of these things that, and it's good. I hope you've seen that both leaders in the Senate, that is Senate Minority Leader and Majority Leader, have already pronounced publicly their positions on it, that the 3 remaining commissioners ought to quit office so that we can have a fresh look into the structure of IEBC. There are 3 things. History. We need to be good students of history as a country and get to learn each and every time we face this kind of thing. To me, it appears so clearly that there is an institutional structural flaw in IEBC, because when you look at the debacle that we had, it's even ongoing, you've just played it a few minutes ago, between the CEO and the chair of the previous commission, Isaac Hassan and Oswago. And now we are seeing the same fight between Chairman Chebukati and CEO Ezra Chiloba. It is becoming clear to us as lawmakers that having 2 centers of power in this commission is untenable. And therefore, as we go to look into what we can do, we need to question and perhaps find a solution around it. We need to consider whether there's the possibility of having the chairman of the commission be the chief executive officer and have him perhaps as the only commissioner who's on full-time basis. It is also becoming clear that, one, we have too many commissioners who interfere with the work of a secretariat on a daily basis, and whether it is good practice to have the commissioners serve on a full-time basis, whether they should just, as like any other board, be coming to the institution maybe 3 or 4 times in a year to check on reports and give institutional directions for the secretariat to execute. However, as IEBC is presently constituted, the commissioners serve on a full-time basis, and therefore you keep on having this clash between the secretariat and the commission. And this is something that as lawmakers we must find a solution to. Otherwise, we will end up landing into trouble each and every time. What I do not agree with Senator Boni Halwale, I don't think I need to go into that debate, because these are political matters that have been settled by constitutional bodies that are supposed to determine whether President Uhuru Kenyatta was validly elected or not. It is not for Boni Halwale to determine or not to determine. There are constitutional bodies that are supposed to do that. Therefore, it's not a debate that I'd wish to engage in.
All right, but maybe the problem question again will be, it's not really about the center of power, that we should have the chairman or the CEO having these powers. But the question that maybe we should actually ask is, what are they squabbling over?
That exactly. You know,
what is the problem?
Listen,
right? And at the center of this, the centrality of the issue is that there is a tender war between the chairman and the CEO. Isn't that the question?
You know, necessarily. Let me.
So the issue of roles of a chair or roles of a CEO does not really hold water.
No. It extremely holds water, and anybody who has any experience in corporate governance will tell you, when you have a law that is not clear on who the final decision rests with on certain matters of procurement, matters of staff discipline and that kind of thing. When you have a chair, if today at your workplace, Debarl, the decision on whether you show up for this show or you don't show up rests with 2 centers of power, there'll be confusion and chaos in this institution. It needs to be crystal clear that who makes the final decision on certain issues.
Thank you. Right, before we go to Senator Kimani Omatangi, we just want to also just give you a snippet and a flavor of what we had last week, that particular discussion here on AM Live.
The discussion taking place in IEBC, I don't think has anything to do with last elections. It's actually competition of interest within the commission. And I believe that the commissioners, and I've heard from the streets that from last year, the commissioners have been competing to control human resource and tenders. And that the main reason why Chiloba now is in this problem is because of tenderpreneurship. Now, commissioners go there, and that's what I'm telling you, 2 centers of power. They go there and promise their people that now I'm a commissioner, I'll be able to hire some people for you in the commission. Number 2, I'll be able to give you certain business. In fact, some of the commissioners were heard saying that, time is moving very fast, we've not made money here. There is even questions as to how did the chairman of IEBC, who is the chair of the legal committee in the subcommittee of the commission, start giving tenders to his own law firm and to his own friends and procedurally without being approved by the commission. So the fight there, I can tell you for sure, has nothing to do with who will be elected and who was supposed to be elected. It has everything to do with who wants to make money through what process. And it will be unfortunate if it will be confirmed that the competition for tenders is the main reason, then a proper inquiry must be done in the commission.
And of course, that was last week with our panelist here on AM Live, Murkomen, weighing in on that particular scenario. Maybe we can just also just hear from Mwachanya. And good morning, good to see you. Welcome back.
Thank you, Debarl. Let me say good morning to our viewers too. And let me first begin by sending my very sincere condolences to the family of the late hero, Kenneth Matiba, and the people of Kenya, the people of Murang'a, for the loss of this man, a man whom we all acknowledge is a hero to be remembered for all time. I mean, a man, Debarl, who sacrificed his health and wealth for us to be where we are today, and I want to take my hat off for him, remembering that at the time when Matiba decided to take on the regime of Kanu, and that time the power that was being wielded by the system, and he chose to put himself squarely in the line of everything. And including risking his own wealth, his business, his health, which finally has seen him lose his life after having suffered strokes. And you can see it is acknowledged universally in the entire country that Kenneth Matiba is one man who will be remembered. And I've seen in the cartoon today in the Daily Nation a depiction of truly who and what he did. There with his with a big mortar staring on the pot of democracy, and Kenneth Matiba has to be remembered by this country. That were it not for the sacrifice, and sometimes one may want to ask, is that the price? Is that the price that heroes have to pay in life? Because Kenneth Matiba probably would have been alive today. I don't want to be speculative on this. If he was just one man who would have just wanted to give way and sit comfortably or pretty, because when these things were happening, he was already comfortable. He had made his money. He was a businessman who had succeeded in his life, but he chose intentionally, individually by personal decision, to fight for the rights of Kenyans. And I remember, all of us remember indeed that time when he landed at the airport from medication, and the excitement that was in the whole country, and that tells you that although the last days that Kenneth Matiba has lived are days that we all feel sadly and sorrowfully, and Debarl, I want to remember, and I wish we would take this opportunity to also review our judicial system, because you can imagine, after claims that were made by Kenneth Matiba on the losses, on what he suffered after his health was meddled with or messed with, it is only towards his last day that the courts offered him compensation. And I can tell you, even right now as we sit, maybe even his bills, his hospital bills, were never paid by any part of that award. Maybe even today, not a penny of those awards is even in his account, or even with the people who have been taking care of him. And you may want to ask yourself, is this the kind of system you would want to continue to have? That people who have fought like him, who have made such huge sacrifices, that at the end of the day will die such a pitiful death. That you find that when lying there in his deathbed, he was only waiting for well-wishers who would come and take care of him. I think this is one man we must honor as a nation and as a country. And remember, amongst our heroes in our Hall of Fame who have entered the books of history in this country as having made huge sacrifices from the times when we got independence and into the new republic that we declared before we got our new constitution.
Thank you.
That Kenneth Matiba must enter there. Now, coming to this other debate.
No, we'll hold it a bit. We'll come to you much later. Let's hear from Jaco Midio. Jaco, good morning.
Good morning, Debarl.
Yeah, thank you. Good to see you.
Yeah, got a wet morning. But first of all, with regards to Matiba, I just want to send my condolences. I am perturbed whenever we lose somebody like that. There are too many people throwing crocodile tears around. They never cared for Matiba. Matangi, I'm surprised you spoke for so long. You know, I always talk about Matiba on this show. When I see police brutality, Matiba is the way he is because of state-sponsored thuggery on people with the dissenting views. How I wish we could say Matiba should be the last one of them who has been tortured by a ruthless arm of the state. Maybe it would be a good place to begin in the 21st century. Secondly, this issue of IEBC, it is like good riddance. You know, when I've seen more comment on that clip saying things he does not mean because he could not say them 2-3 months ago. They never meant them. These people helped them. These people have wrecked. If it was my world, Debarl, Chebukati and all these people, I would hang them at Uhuru Park. Because we have come a long way to try to get here. This country must get to a point where the civil servants should and shall never again be directed by politicians. They have used them. They have misused them. What Senator Cheriot is talking about, how there is no clear law. The law is clear. If you read the Kriegler report, the person who should be running IEBC is the CEO. The commission has refused during Isaka's son, and politicians helped them. The commission has refused during this Chebukati thing. And Kriegler said, the commissioner's work should be policy. Implementation should be the secretariat. And that is how we arrived in all these commissions. That's how we arrived at a commission which is non-executive and a secretariat which is executive. But look at this mess. How can this guy, who is a lawyer, he knows the law, even imagine awarding himself tenders? How can the other one buy phones for millions of shillings and they arrive after elections and you pay? That Chiloba should be in prison. Shimulatewa, not even committing near politicians in Nairobi. Peleka huko. This country must change and this commission must go. And go with all its secretariat. This country must figure out a way where a politician must not go for one-stop shop on rigging elections. This country must figure out a way of doing elections in a way that after elections, everybody goes home, the loser greets the winner, and the winner is happy that they have been given a duty to serve the people. As it were, I would suggest, as we resolve this IEBC issue, we talk about the structure of government, executive structure. This country cannot survive on this so-called winner-take-all presidency. It's not working for us. We are shedding and spilling too much blood with the wrong people at very right places at right times And Kenyans have lost and are losing faith in the electioneering system.
All right. Let's hear from Boni Khalwale. Boni Khalwale, Professor Abdi Guliye and Mr. Boya Molu, you said that other commissioners, the power that be prevailed upon them actually to resign, right? So in other words, they were actually forced to, they were sacked sort of, and then maybe for just political or public posturing, it seemed like it was a resignation. But why these two? Why were they left?
I'm glad that Honorable Midio, who was not here when I first spoke, has literally repeated what I told the country, that we are dealing with criminals who should not be treated in any other way than the way criminals are treated. We don't care about the other three commissioners who are still in office. The only person who was brave enough to face the country and say IEBC was dysfunctional was Dr. Roslyn Akombe. So these other ones, they have just been partaking of what they think now the country is starting to hear in a different version, and that's why they are coming in a different way. Let me tell you, today in the morning, Kenyans are celebrating integrity amongst politicians when they remember Matiba. So when I see these two Jubilee honorable members stand here and make a lot of stories about two centers of power and stuff like that, what you should have done, you should have apologized. That now that the commissioners have gone, you are apologizing of how you misbehaved. You remember when we demanded that they go away after the first election of 8th of August? You not only defended them, but you even went and abused the floor of Parliament, both Senate and the National Assembly, and amended the electoral laws so that you would give Maina an opportunity to announce the winner. Thanks that the judiciary has since quashed those misadvised adventures that you guys were involved in. So you should apologize for Kenyans to know that you are people of integrity reading from the same page with Matiba, who I can see Wamatangi respects so much. My brother Cheruyot, what is this thing of two centers of power that not only Murkomen spoke about, but you are seeming to use it to try and sanitize what we are addressing today? Listen to me. There is a difference between the role played by the commissioners and the roles played by the secretariat. Maybe because you are used to straightforward, tested long things like the way a ministry is run. What you are saying is that the minister, who is supposed to be in charge of policy, should also be the permanent secretary of the ministry. That's basically what you're saying, by asking that the chairman, the commissioner, should also be the head of the secretariat. There are no two centers of power there. When we made these laws, we were very clear in our minds that we needed an arm of IEBC that would be responsible for matters of policy. It's being done by the commissioners. Why do you want a commissioner who is also a CEO? The problem, as I said last week, was that at the heart of that particular decision of Chebukati was the tender of 2.4 billion shillings of procurement of technology for the repeat election. The IEBC Technical Tender Committee recommended that a payment of 800 million be made. But Chebukati went ahead and paid 2.4 billion. So when challenged by Chebukati, the CEO then reminds Chebukati, but you also stole your farm of, is it called Kotun or something, Kotun law firm of Chebukati, then was procured to defend the IEBC in court over the outcome of elections across the country. So this is why you had me in my second charge here, on my charge sheet, that these people should be charged for having broken the Public Procurement and Disposal Act of 2005. Let's be honest.
You know, Debarl, you know, there's just something I want to observe. Boni Halwale's understanding of procuring entities list of suppliers' names is amazing. I just wanted to wonder, are you a supplier or something? Because the nature of the details that you're revealing to us this morning.
Former chair of public accounts committee.
No. That was a long time. 10th Parliament. We are talking about how many years ago?
The brains are not a long time. The brains of Boni Halwale are not long time brains.
This must be another supplier.
I don't even know where those offices are of IEBC. I hope I'd never get to.
All right. Anyway, back to serious business. Debarl, you've heard the things Boni Halwale has said. Let it come very clear to him that one, the reason why I have taken this position is that I am a good student of history. And as a lawmaker, when you're making law, one of the things you look at is what is the present situation, what has been currently happening, so that it informs you on the kind of laws and deliberations that you're going to make. I've just reminded you, Dr. Boni Halwale, yes, that before this show began, we saw a clip of the debacle between Oswago and his former chair, yes, Isaac Hassan. Yes. We are seeing the same between Chebukati and Chiloba. Wouldn't we be fools if we sat here pretty and said the law is extremely clear, yet it is becoming clear to us that commission after another, the chair and the CEO keep on fighting. That is why I took the position and said, perhaps maybe there are things that we haven't set out to be clear, and I haven't said what it is. The position that you're speaking about chair being CEO, those were just ideas and suggestions that I was throwing around, saying we need to open up our minds and question that. Matters of election are, one, extremely emotive, and two, there's too much political interest, and we know what happens when politicians have power. Today, you may be taking the position you're taking because you are in the opposition. But the time that you'll be in government, who knows what you will be able to do. Therefore, we need to insulate this commission to ensure that it doesn't matter whoever will be in power, they will not be subject to the whims of politicians. And therefore, I posited that we need to reflect back and question, is there a possibility, either in law or in good practice, to ensure that commissioners stick to matters of policy, as you have rightly put, and the secretariat remains to be the implementers. However, the law as is currently, it is increasingly becoming clear to us that we have not been able to cure that problem. I've had, you know, when we were doing the amendment of the election laws, the ones that you've just referred to, we had views from Kenyans, from all walks of life, and even up to institutional level, Kenya National Human Rights Commission, Law Society of Kenya. They came before our committee and listed, explained some of the problems that you are now seeing. This current situation provides us the correct opportunity, because now it appears that both sides of the political divide are agreeing. We should be thanking the heavens for this particular moment and saying, okay, come, let us listen to you. Leave politics aside. Accept that you lost the 2017 election. You can whine, you can do whatever you want to do, but the truth of the matter is that the highest court of the land gave it a clean bill of health. Your members of parliament from your coalition, they continue to draw a salary courtesy of the work of these people that you call criminals. You know, and therefore, now that we have this particular opportunity to get to listen and say, what is it that you want to propose as members of opposition? What is it that you think we need to either infuse into law or ensure that IEBC becomes operational? Because law is a living document. We keep on improving it. We have had the sentiments from Jakoyo about the things that Kriegler directed us to do. It is it not a fact that is known that in 2017 we took a very unwise decision as a country to have new commissioners installed. By the way, these commissioners that we are kicking out and calling criminals have served for less than a year and a half. I don't think it's even more than 1.5 years. Yet Kriegler told us that for you to have an effective working commission before any election, they must have served 2 years, a minimum of 2 years in that commission, so that they familiarize, they get to bond and jail.
Right. We need
that has not happened.
Mwachanya, good morning.
Yes, Debarl, thank you. I have a few thoughts on this IBC current scenario. First is to lament, actually, that unfortunately looks like from a chronology of what happened since the Kivuitu exit, then again the Isaac Hassan Commission, and now the Chebukati Commission. Unfortunately, it looks like IBC has become a deathbed for several careers. And one of the concerns that I believe we should have as a nation right now is with this kind of trend, are we setting up IEBC? If the failures, if the end result as we are seeing it right now is a result of the structural flaws that are within IEBC, are we setting it up in a way that in future, if you tell a credible person to go and serve in IEBC, that they will not want to go and serve there? Because we seriously run that danger. Unless we address that properly. And if you ask me, probably then we should have a change that would require probably a commission to serve only a cycle of that particular one election. I mean, for example, we propose the black spider dogma or doctrine. You know, the black spider, once it mates with a male and is ready now to give birth to its new, it eats up the male, and that becomes the end of it. Probably, this would be the proposal we would need to have on IEBC. Ask ourselves, do we need to prescribe that once the commissioners serve, they should serve for that one cycle? And then with that kind of arrangement. Because, Debarl, the issues that have been raised here that we must address and talk about. For example, you know, there has been this big discussion about the tenders and the fight about money. And the reality is this, that with a budget of more than 3 billion shillings to conduct an election, to be spent within 365 days, and ensure that that process has taken, and at the end of the day you can close that door and say you spent the money. Once you have given that amount of money to that commission, comprising of 9 individuals at most, then you have set the stage definitely for a battle, because you have told those people, go and spend the 3 billion within those 365 days. So what is most likely to ensue without proper checks and balances is a serious carnival, a serious carnival, whereby everybody will be looking for the best opportunity where they can make the most or maximize on what they can take away with as a part of that 3 billion. And so the question of having money playing out, as you have seen in the press reports of what is already ongoing with the defunct commission of Isaac Hassan, between the two, Oswago and Chiloba and Hassan, is really about the monies involved. That becomes a big issue. But then, you see, when the commissioners were resigning, there's a word they kept on using there, that it is no longer tenable. And the question that we also need to ask ourselves lawfully, and this we need to also inform our viewers, is, according to our constitution, a commission is alive and well and constitutionally composed as long as it has 3 commissioners. That is the law. So even as we talk about the other 3 remaining commissioners going home, in the eyes of the law, it is seen, acknowledged, and accepted that it is still a commission. So the question of tenability is really a question of moral values. It is a question of personal integrity. It's a question of personal decision. do they feel those remaining ones that they can carry the will of the people, the support of the people, and the vision of the country when they continue? I mean, it boils down to whatever they decide themselves. And lastly, I must say, like most Kenyans would, that this comes probably as you know, cold water during a very, very hot season. Hot season because, I mean, at this time we were waiting for IEBC, and you mentioned it, Debarl, earlier, on the boundaries review. And this is a big issue. It's a very big issue. If you ask me from where I come from, in Kiambu, in the whole of central Kenya, we have been awaiting this boundaries review, seriously and eagerly, because we want to get back to that drawing board and ask ourselves, why are there millions and millions of the bulk of voters within that region, and we have the least representation within parliament? For example, you ask yourself, what is the population of Kiambu County today? And what is the population of Murang'a and Kirinyaga and the other areas within that region combined, and how many members of parliament do they have? And compare the representation that of those people with, for example, the other places. Like if you look at the blocks maybe of Eastern, Northeastern, how many members? For example, within the other areas of the Rift Valley, how many members of parliament representing an equal number? This is a debate that we have been awaiting to have with IEBC, such that during the boundaries review, we are expecting that representation in parliament is going to be an issue that will be taking the dimension whereby representation is of the people and the population. But, and so definitely, well, you know, I think the IEBC collapsing at such a time, you know, and remember, Debarl, that it is also at this particular time again when the Commission on Revenue Allocation is reviewing its parameters as to how money will be disbursed in the future to the devolved units. And this process is already ongoing. So the twin issues have a big bearing on the future and how we are going to be looking at devolution.
Okay. I think, to be honest,
let's say from Wajako, then we'll come to you, Boni Khalwale.
Sorry.
Yes, Debarl, I am happy hearing Mwachanya supporting parliamentary system of government. You know, now it's going to be based on numbers and representation of the people. Although the truth of Mwachanya that you can take home, the theory of tyranny of numbers has been debunked.
Yes.
Based on the last elections.
Yes.
You saw who showed up to vote for you on October 26th and how many there were. You don't have the numbers. You've been scaring us for decades. You don't have this now. But I agree with you that there are some overrepresented parts of this country. And the answer to your question need not to be answered by IEBC, because it was just corruption. That commission that dealt with the boundaries basically went doing the wrong things. And
the legal one?
Yes, the legal one. That was a wrong commission, and it did wrong things. I tried to contest the illegal constituencies. There are many illegal constituencies, but the Attorney General then, Githu Muigai, would not support me. But everybody agreed the process that led us there was wrong, and that the constituencies as we have, we don't even need them. That is a fact. We need to talk about these issues. There's no way, if you go to the northeastern province, you move from 8 constituencies to 17. What was the economic reason? There's no way what Mwachanya is talking about. Why should Turkana County, for example, get more money than Kiambu County? You know, Kenyans, we just don't want to talk about issues. You know, things, financial allocation are based on other factors, but the main one is population.
It's the people.
Yeah, it's the people. And we must confront. But I wanted to say this, Debarl.
Yes.
Maybe IEBC does not need independence. And I say that because I think it is the only way to go. IEBC needs a representative who is one commissioner, domiciled in parliament. The rest of elections need to be local elections. You will still arrive at national figures. This is how it's done world over. Nothing stops Boni Halwale's county from conducting elections and then producing presidential numbers or any other numbers. We cannot have this thing any other way. The problem is that when you have everything centralized in Nairobi, one hand does not know what the other one is doing. If I tell you the IEBC in CI, I am here because of IEBC in CI. I am sure Chebukati does not know about the corruption of IEBC in CI.
Well.
You understand? I am sure Chebukati does not know about the IEBC in Mombasa. The system is simply too large to be controlled from anniversary towers. Except we have devolved everything. But as a matter of policy, there needs to be one commissioner, like it is in the United States, like everywhere else. But in our case, that person needs to have an office in parliament to talk, discuss policies of matters, elections, with lawmakers who are being paid to do it. Stop paying other people to develop policies which they don't even understand. This guy was a lawyer from courtrooms. He doesn't understand this political thing. Then you tell him, be there for a year and conduct election. I can tell you, if you sat Chebukati down to discuss with him the magnitude of what he has done, what he has the chaos he has plunged this country into.
He does not understand.
He does not understand, but he's going home with billions. He has stolen, he has looted from public coffers. It is time to wake up and say, the way we were going, it was a bad experiment.
Okay. Let's say from Boni Halwale, then we gravitate the conversation also to issue of governance, just briefly.
I wanted to help the public a little. From the presentation of my brother Wamatangi, you are giving false hope to the people you represent, that during the boundaries review, they stand an opportunity to get extra wards and extra constituencies. No. Reread the law for them. The role of IEBC is not to create a new ward or a new constituency. They simply tweak the boundaries so that, for example, if Ward A borders with Ward B, and Ward B has got 25,000 voters, while Ward A has got 20,000 voters, they tweak the boundary so that the populations of the two wards can be almost equal. Can I finish? Can I finish?
Sure.
And therefore, and thank you, the two of you are in parliament, if your desire is to have more constituencies, then go and unlock the article in the Constitution that defines that Kenya shall have 290 constituencies. Before that, IEBC is helpless. Finally, my brother Cheriot, you have raised the issue of me playing politics with IEBC this morning. I have not. Allow me to say something political for the first time now on IEBC. The first political thing I want to say, Debarl, is that Kenyans should ask themselves, since I've already averred that these people were either asked to resign or they were sacked, why did the powers that be do that? Somebody is cooking something. And inside the pot, maybe, and I see the target is the current deputy president. The current deputy president knows too much about IEBC, and he knows exactly how they messed the election. And the people who call themselves the owners of Kenya, they do not include the deputy president and yourself in theory. The people who come from those special families, now they want to get the deputy president out of the way. So one other strategy is to make sure that the system the deputy president knew, it works to rig out people like Jacob Midiwo, is completely phased out, so that they put now a new system in place that will help them to nail the deputy president. I told Murkomen when we were having tea last week that soon you people, you will be running to come to where we are. We, the sons and daughters of nobodies to come and give you warmth. Where the deputy president is, and I don't speak Kikuyu language, but I've got a sister-in-law who teaches me a few things. They ask, Nehu, yani, who is the father of this fellow? Nehu. That's why you see now Raila has completely forgotten that Moi jailed him for 8 years plus. And he's running there because now the politics of dynasties is at play. Ruto is well advised to start calling one Boni Khalwale, to start calling one Wamatangi. Otherwise, those people is wasting time, but they don't have him on their agenda. That's my politics this morning. On IBC.
All right. We'll get into that much later. Are we joined? We'll give you some sporting chance also. Let's hear from...
the politics of Boni Khalwale. You know, he quickly went to something that I wanted to ask him. What? Earlier on, he had referred and said the owners of Kenya. So I wanted to ask him, who are these owners of Kenya? Are they the ones that we saw in a handshake somewhere having visited Mzee Moi? But he quickly confirmed that actually those are the owners of Kenya. I want to remind him that as we head to the next election, we will take a census to know between these owners of Kenyans, these owners of Kenya, the children of the who and who in this country. We want to know who is more between them and the kids of peasants, the kids of watchmen, teachers, cooks. We will know on that day. And you know who else embodies the aspirations and hope of that class of people. You know who it is. Of course, you don't agree with him at the moment, but you'll rush to him at that time. Anyway, back to IBC issue. There's something that Jacoyo... There's something that Jacoyo...
Speaking to the nation.
Yes. He's none other than the deputy president. Yes. Don't you know that?
Yes.
Of course, even Jacoyo knows.
What am I supposed to know about Ruto?
What I've just said.
That he calls the key to anything. Listen to
anyway,
listen to Boni.
Back to you know you have to understand something that thanks to where the political fortunes of Jacoyo and Boni Khalwale are at the moment, they keep on trying to raise the bid price by, not to say that you're buyable or you're a commercial good, but by offering unsolicited advice to the deputy president, so that with hope that at a particular time he'd say, I like what Boni Khalwale has been saying lately. Can we have tea? I want to assure you, when that time comes, if we feel that we need your advice, we will come for you, Boni Khalwale. But at the moment, please, it is not yet time to have that discussion. We'll have it. Your contribution in this country is done. I have not refused.
Let me just a small interjection. I told you, let us be honest.
Yes.
Okay? The so-called the handshakes, when they have been taking place, they have been taking place between the scions of the dynasties.
Exactly what I have said.
Listen to me. When Raila chose to go and shake hands with Moi, do you know who accompanied him?
Of course.
The child of Sharif Nasser.
No. I think we need to
The
find
child
out.
of-
I think you're gravitating.
He's
Briefly. Can we
He is derailing me.
Don't get derailed, please.
Yes.
We'll actually go to the issues of
we will go to that debate about who
much
are
much
more.
later. I want us to concentrate on
Overtime is on my side
IBC.
today.
And Boni Khalwale is really tickled. But the question is, you raise the issue of Mongozo, not really Mongozo, but corporate governance.
Yes.
And why we're debating about IBC and of course even the previous commissioners that we've had before is the issue of governance. My question would be, this particular document that was actually put out in 2015, and my director may just pick up on it. Can you tell us what this Mongozo Code was all about? The Code of Governance for State Corporation. And I know IBC maybe is not falling within this particular remit, but I just want to pick some of the things that we have here from Mongozo Code, and this is a statement from the president himself. I'll just read the latter bit, where it says that my government is committed to full implementation of all the provisions of Mongozo and will accord the process all the support required to ensure the state corporations deliver the expected outcomes that we all desire. I therefore call upon all of us in the public sector to adhere to Mwongozo. My issuance of Mwongozo should not be seen as an end in itself, but as the first step towards propelling our governance ethos to the international arena. My government is particularly eager to ensure that Kenya accedes to the Convention of the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development in the near future for purposes of entrenching corporate governance. In this regard, I will shortly be issuing Mwongozo as regulations under Section 30 of the State Corporations Act, Cap 4446. And of course, this was way back in 2014. Right? My question is, since we had this particular Mwongozo code, why do we have issue of governance with IEBC? Why do we have issue of governance with many state corporations? Who is, because this I think is under the State Corporation, this is a State Corporation Advisory Committee. What is the State Corporation Advisory Committee doing to make sure that we have our leaders, leading state corporations, parastatals, adhering to this Mwongozo code? Or was it just another report or maybe an ethical code that was developed but it is not being implemented? So these issues that we're talking about, Chebukati and the chairman, Chebukati and the CEO, it is all encapsulated in this Mwongozo code itself. Is anyone following Mwongozo code? So I want us to actually take that particular debate, not only just on IEBC, because many state corporations are not really following this Mwongozo code. And if the president said we should adhere to this Mwongozo code, why is anyone not really accountable to make sure that people are actually brought to the slumbers, or thrown to the slumbers for that matter, that they're not really following these particular ethical codes?
It's the old Kenyan problem, Debarl, where we want quick fix solutions and we want to solve a particular problem at a particular given time and hope that it will never reoccur again without being introspective enough to question ourselves as leaders and as Kenyans, to wonder aloud, what is it that we live for as a country? What is it that really matters for us? Debarl, you will remember, we did this constitution barely 7 or 8 years ago. But today, there are people who are already telling us that this document is not tenable, that there are things that we need to change. I want to post it this morning, that Jacoyo Mediwo, the problem is not the law, as you had actually rightly put it with IEBC. It has everything to do with us as Kenyans and us not being sincere with ourselves of what is it that we want for our country. We keep on complaining about corruption and we keep on saying that we want to elect someone, you know. The common debate is, the common balance is, we want to elect someone who will end corruption. But we keep on forgetting that this corruption that we keep on struggling with each and every day, it is practiced by ordinary Kenyans in ordinary places, right from the bottom all the way up to the top. When we complain about corporate governance issues, we are complaining about this current IEBC commissioners, but we are not going to the deeper level of asking, what is it about us as Kenyans? Don't we love our country so much to a level that when you're given a public office,
thank you,
when you have the opportunity to serve your nation, you live up to the calling? It does not matter how many documents we do. We can do Mwongozo guide, we can amend this constitution a number of times, but as a people, if we are not ready to question ourselves and say, what are the things that bedevil us as a country, that we are ready to change, and change begins with you. You question yourself as a Debarl and say, as myself, I know that this and this, how do I contribute to the national Kenyan problems of negative ethnicity, corruption, and those kind of things, and say, at a personal level, I want change begins with me. As Kenyans, we are not ready to do that. As is very clear even on the panel this morning, we are so ready to point fingers and say, so-and-so is on the wrong, so-and-so does this. Yet our history at very personal levels is clear for us. Jacoyo Mediwo, the very things that you speak about, you should be able to question yourselves as you move forward. Because I'm one person who believes that your contribution to this country has not ended. You may be out of parliament right now, but you still have a chance to give your contribution to the public. What have you learned from the years and the mistakes that you made, that now as you move on to the next phase of life, you will improve.
Thank you. Let's say from Kimani Matangi. I want us to concentrate on corporate governance a bit and what is happening with the IEBC. Let's just train our focus on that before we gravitate to other issues. Matangi.
Yes, thank you, Debarl, but as I do that, let me answer the issue that was raised by Boni Halwale first. Because, you know, Boni Halwale is a guy I admire a lot. Actually, sometimes I try to imagine you, Boni, you know, if for any twist of fate, you are a villager in Kakamega living.
Malenya. His village is called Malenya.
I think you would have been a terror to the villagers there,
I'm not a net runner.
Sometimes the way I look at you, you know, you twist stories and your presentations. Sometimes, you know, like those guys you find in the village, you know, centers there who gather crowds and you can really cheat them. And bring them to some, you know, utopian thought, because body one, my brother, you know, even as you talk about the deputy president, you know, being either edged out so that this and that can happen, you know, remember the deputy president was elected into that position by another IEBC. That is the Hassan IEBC. That's the one that saw him campaigning and being elected to that position. Remember that he has now been elected together with the president as a running mate by this IEBC that is there. And before that, he has run for other elections with several other IEBCs and including the previous bodies, and he's been elected several times. So I do not think that has anything to do with that. But suffice it to say, the point I was making earlier that you spoke about on do we think as a people, either of Central Kenya or the areas that were disenfranchised by the Boundaries Review Commission at that particular time, think that we can have new constituencies created? You did not hear me well. What I said is that there are two issues that are happening right now. One is the review of the parameters along which money is devolved to counties, and the misrepresentation that is current. And those are the twin issues that I said we are very eagerly waiting and ready to deal with, such that the revenue and disbursement of resources is now going to follow the right way and procedure, and that is factoring in where the people are. That is where more resources should be able to go. And that is the whole talk. Now, Debarl, on this issue that you spoke about governance, Mwongozo. Actually, I was one of the people who raised a big issue sometimes in Parliament on Mwongozo. One of the specified directives of Mwongozo was that no Kenyan can be a beneficiary from the resources of government by virtue of being a government employee or an appointee, such that you are being paid by government and you, again, for example, get appointed in a board or another board and benefit twice or thrice. I raised that issue very seriously sometimes in Parliament, whereby you find that you have a board member who is an employee of a government institution, enjoys a salary, is co-opted into a board somewhere as a chair, is enjoying remuneration and dividends and honoraria and whatever from government, and is appointed to another board, and you find somebody benefiting thrice or four times. And at that same time, that person has got a salary and employed by an institution of government. And that is clearly against what Mwongozo said and says up to today. And so an honest answer is people just want to benefit. And wherever they can beat the law, they want to beat the law so that they can be beneficiaries.
So what is the need of this Mwongozo
so
code
that's
anyway?
what I'm saying. You see, the issue is not, and it is not only on the issue of Mwongozo, Debarl. It is really with every law that we have. That it is not the absence of law that creates the lawlessness that we have. It is the failure to respect and follow that law. And you find everybody wants to have a version of interpretation of what the law requires and specifies that they have to do so that it can end up being in favor. And anyway, because I see we don't have a lawyer on this panel today, but we are well versed in law ourselves, you find that these are the arguments that lawyers make all the time on the floor of courtrooms. You know, trying to bend and tilt either in favor of what they want to happen to their clients.
All right.
Yeah, it's not the absence of a directive. It is not the absence of mwongozo, as it means, that makes people not follow or obey it. It is the intent and will not to follow it for benefits.
No, these commissioners, many of them, the governors, they appear before your committees.
Yes.
Right? Most of the times. Of
Yes.
course, even we've seen the last week, that was a row between you also with the MPs as far as roles are concerned. But that is not really, you know, what we're discussing this morning. But the question is, do you even, you yourself, have a copy of Mwongozo Code and ask them critical questions in regard to what is in the Mwongozo Code yourself when you're looking at this or investigating some of these matters that comes to the table?
That's why you heard me saying that if you look at the records of Parliament, I raised that issue seriously on the provisions of Mwongozo as far as benefiting 3 or 4 times of certain civil servants was concerned.
But
I've also raised it as a member of the Public Accounts Committee. And that time I was sitting with Boni Halwale also as the chairman of that committee, and myself as an active member. We have raised serious issues of disrespect and intentional disobedience to the law and its provisions, including areas of governance, so that people can have an opportunity to loot.
Thank you.
That's the end of the day.
All right, let's hear from Jacoy.
Debarl, I want us to use this opportunity to do 2 things. Number 1, to diagnose the problem of our country. Number 2 is to suggest solutions. That is why when Boni talks about the handshake and all these things, I look at the positive aspect of it, the opportunity presented for us to talk about our country. Where did things go wrong? In 1978, when Kenyatta died, Kenya had 13 ministers, none of them illiterate, and not even an illiterate assistant minister. And the civil service had meritocracy. Today, this commission, as you see, of IEBC, the first problem is that most of them are not deserving. They are there because they are from a particular region.
Amen.
That is what happened. And that is where we went wrong when we created all these commissions. Because many of them are undeserving in terms of brains. They are only there because they are from my village. Period. There, you must understand, that is a very big problem. The problem of our country, I dare say, is that we have very many qualified Kenyans, but the civil service is wrongly constituted, so that the political government is more powerful than the civil service government. And Moi did that so that he could be able to go to Muranga and say, today I want a road from here to Nyeri, without talking about the budget. Because the civil servants now started fearing politicians. And now you are at a situation where politicians have populated the civil service with people who are not deserving brain-wise. So you have civil, you go to the Jogo House, for example, you see those people in the media talking about education policy. You see lecturers constantly on the streets because nobody cares about their brains. A lecturer now wants money, does not want to churn out brains that will go in developing our country. What am I saying? You have ministries in this country where business is being conducted in vernacular languages. Many ministries. Go to Treasury, go to Jogo House. It's a fact. Mm-hmm. Go to police department. We must go the way Malaysia went in this country. What did they do? They were faced with this problem. And remember, in 1972, we gave foreign aid to Malaysia, $25 million. Now look at Malaysia. Our problem is that politicians are more powerful than civil servants. And unless we make a concerted effort to end that trend, we will never have a country. We will never be civilized. What Malaysians did in the civil service, when there are jobs in the police, for example, you begin by saying the rendiles, or the least, the lowest, the smallest tribe. That job which is available, is there somebody from the smallest community who is qualified? Then you go like in other words, the Kikuyus will still get their majority share in civil service, but the other small tribes will have already been taken care of. But you can't have a scenario. You read papers. I was just looking. Go to a ministry. Everybody is, they're either all from one tribe or all from the other tribe. And there are only two tribes. Kenya cannot be run with a civil service from two tribes. You cannot conduct government business thinking about Gemakala. No, government Gemakala is not Lamu. We must accept that something is inherently wrong, and you must accept that the political class don't understand it, and you must therefore create a forum where people will come and talk, diagnose the problem, and offer solutions. Thank you.
Right. Boni Khalwale?
I'll take over from there by just telling viewers that Nelson Mandela said that if a man changes his beliefs, depending on who that man is dealing with, then he is not fit in any way to lead anything, worst of all, lead a nation. I've listened to you read that quote from the president.
Yes.
And I'm impressed that the president got it right just months after winning the election in 2013. So, in fact, the central issue in that particular code is national ethos. Now, national ethos, Kenyans, do we lack legislation that can address national ethos in this country? No, we have it. In fact, we have legislated so much that we have two big institutions to address the issue of national ethos. One, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, and the National Cohesion and Integration Commission. They're there. So all the president needs to do is not to keep on changing depending who he's dealing with. He should just make sure that the impunity that allows people to do what Chebukati has done, and the commissioners and everybody else who is stealing from the country, he should get the right people, the way his father did in the first cabinet, into office. Once those people are in office, they should be given the latitude to work. The only president who came close enough to giving ministers latitude to work was Mwai Kibaki. Mwai Kibaki allowed ministers to enjoy space so that they could prove their ability. Today, Debarl, when I go to the issue raised by Jacob Medio about the quality of the leaders in critical national institutions, I can't help asking myself, where did the rain start beating us? It is true, when Moi took over, he's then the one who started littering all public officers with friends, people who could manipulate and what have you. I remember at one stage, he sacked Matiba when Matiba had changed the Ministry of Health. Matangi, remember when Matiba used to go there at 7:30 a.m. in the morning, Matiba is in the office, things are working. Moi sacked Matiba because Matiba was now outshining him and replaced him with a policeman. Not a policeman, a soldier. He made Mlinge, a soldier, to be the replacement of Matiba. And this is evident even today. That's why it is very easy, Cheriot, for you to be elected in Kericho as a senator, because you are very popular, but it is next to impossible, if you are not, for you to be appointed to anything. Because for you to be appointed to something, they have to look for your history. What is your physical address? Meaning, Baba Yako, na mama yako walikuwa nani?
Those people you were talking about earlier.
Exactly. And unfortunately,
who you sadly support.
And unfortunately, the history of this country has proven that some of the children of the rich don't necessarily come out very well in terms of capacity. Have you ever seen in this Stand 8 national exam, from very national exam, have you ever seen the son of a billionaire being number one? The son of a prominent politician being the best performing
At least
student?
I've seen one.
Well, the
Lonyangapo.
Yeah?
You remember Lonyangapo?
But Lonyangapo is a very straightforward person.
Yeah.
You know Prof. Prof is not a joke. So, by locking out these other people, we are preventing people who will deliver something to Kenya. Imagine the US. If it had not had an opportunity where anybody can raise to the top, one of the United States' best presidents, or Barack Obama, would never have been president.
All right, Debarl, you know, just on this topic, there is a columnist on your Sunday newspaper. I forget his name. He's of Indian descent, but a Kenyan. He has written a book called Peculiar Kenyan Habits.
Sunny Bindra.
Sunny Bindra. That's the guy I'm looking for.
Yes, yes.
You know, he speaks about the problem that you're facing this morning, where we keep on imagining that a fresh set of laws is what will solve our country. It will never solve us because we have peculiar Kenyan habits, things that we keep on continually doing and hoping that somebody else will clear that mess. It is not unusual to see a Kenyan properly dressed, driving an expensive car, thinking that it's product of hard work, open their window, throw out litter on the road, and move on. Then tomorrow they'll be ranting on Twitter when Siwa clogs. It is not unusual when Governor Sonko plants grass to see decent Kenyans properly dressed walking on top of that grass. Then tomorrow they complain why our city is not beautiful. These are the kind of things that you will never be able to legislate against. Even when you're seated in any panel doing recruitment of any Kenyan, you will be shocked if people of high caliber that you look at them and admire them giving you very weird requests. They know very well that the cut-off mark says B+. For you to interview certain people, they say, oh, please, I have this nephew of mine who I really want you to assist for me. Never mind that he never scored the B+. Then, when things begin to go wrong in our country, we look back and say, what can we do? What laws can we create? The problem that Boni Halwale, you asked, where did the rain begin to beat us? I think I have an answer.
Yes.
It beat us when we refused to separate policy and politics. We refuse to separate politics and policy. You've just listened to the very eloquent contribution of my good friend Jacoyo Mediwo, who for 90% spoke very good things about this country. But in his closing 10%, resorted back to the usual politics of saying that the national government is populated by only 2 communities. Is he not aware? Listen.
Tell me where I'm lying.
Didn't I listen to you?
All right.
Is he not a member? Was he not a member of parliament when NCIC brought a report to parliament and presented to us that the top 5 tribes in this country, that is the Kalenjins, the Kikuyus, the Luyas, the Luos, and the Kambas, occupy more than what is the equitable share of government jobs, and that is because of their proximity to power. When you try and reduce, as opposed to being magnanimous enough and rising and saying, as a big 5 tribes, we need to sit down and say, enough, gentlemen. How is it that we can now begin to see El Molochs and Dorobos rise even to the top cadres of civil service, as opposed to the kind of politics he's trying to play?
Thank you
so
very
be
much.
magnanimous, Jacoyo. Raise a point and be true to it.
Thank
Don't
you.
laze it with politics.
All right, thank you.